Oh my God, it's just such an unbelievable moment.
Brandon, you also told me, as you can hear the chants from the crowd, let's go, Brandon.
Steve online is asking about your support of the Trump campaign, President Trump.
No, my daughter works on Trump 2020, and she's free to do that. We have a vigorous debate at home about politics, and my daughter works on the Trump campaign. That doesn't mean that I support the Trump campaign.
Okay.
When I go to Washington, I'm not going to listen to the Republican leaders. I'm going to use two documents as my guide. The Bible in one hand and the Constitution in the other.
Senator Portman and all the other 5 statewide candidates will face the ballot box as well. We must stand with our Republican incumbents as they continue their public service.
Lies, dishonesty, cheating, facades, caricatures. We see it everywhere in our life today, especially from institutions that we once respected. And people still want us to respect them, even though they're dishonest. The media, government, schools, healthcare organizations. It's everywhere. As I travel around the state, 88 counties, people tell me they're fed up with it. They're fed up with hiring, electing the same kind of people and getting the same kind of results.
I'm also the only one up here, Matt was not with us the last time, who's not vaxxed. Jack asked us the question last time and we answered. The only person who didn't answer was Josh. Josh, do you want to answer tonight?
Sure. Yeah, my personal feeling is it is not right for the government or the media or anyone to ask us if we're vaccinated. So my feeling is, for all of us out there.
Okay, I got 17 seconds. Thanks.
All right. Thanks. I thought you were inviting me up.
No,
Sorry.
I want you to answer.
I want you to answer. If we keep electing people like Josh, we're going to keep getting the same results, and they stink.
Prepare for launch. 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Mark Pukita's Truth Bomb. I'm Mark Pukita. I can't believe it's been another week already. It went by super fast. We've got 3 great segments for you tonight. First, we'll do some more policy roulette. That's where we picked from the 21 very detailed policy areas that I've outlined in my policy guide. And I want to talk policy. I love talking policy, but it seems my opponents don't want to talk about policy, don't want to go on the record with voters, but I love talking policy. Second, you're probably aware we had another candidate forum hosted by Jack Windsor and the Ohio Press Network last week in Strongsville. The caricatures and the facades were in full swing, and we'll show you some video and we'll have some commentary on that. And then finally, we'll help you understand why Ohio campaign finance is so utterly corrupt. The top politicians in our state all use a completely corrupt and incompetent CPA firm called Winterset CPAs. And we'll show you one of their staff members who is helping Ohio swamp rhinos manage their finances. You'll understand why we're the most corrupt. Ohio is the most corrupt Republican Party probably in the United States. Then we'll do some freeform and talk about my campaign and the soon approaching Ohio Republican Party Christmas party. So let's get started with segment 1, policy roulette. Joining me once again is Chris Hicks. Chris, let's get started with Policy Roulette. Why don't you explain to folks how it works if they weren't with us last week?
Well, I got to tell everybody first, Mark, that we're having hat night tonight. You've got on your Pukita hat. I got on my brand new Let's Go Brandon hat that I got from my friends, the Hodge twins, along with my fancy new shirt that says, I am a proud member of the LGB FJB community.
Nice.
So it's pretty exciting for me to get these things. But Policy Roulette, what we do, Mark, is we take the cards, your policy guide cards, and we take this bucket that I made that has a bunch of chips in it that are poker chips, but they have different numbers on them for different policy areas. And I just randomly draw them and we cover them. And we're going to try to do 3 of these tonight. We did 2 of them last week. The 2 that we did last week have been isolated in a separate bag so we won't cover them again.
Hermetically sealed, I hope.
Hermetically sealed.
Hermetically sealed.
Are you? By the way, are you ready for some Policy Roulette?
Man, I'm always ready for Policy Roulette. Let's do it.
Let's see which one I grab. I've got number 7.
Ooh, number 7. Let's
I don't
see.
know if you can see that. You can see.
So we go to the policy guide. Mine's a little dog-eared because I use it a lot when I'm on the campaign trail. And we go to number 7. So right down here on this page, right there, front page. And it's jobs and opportunity. Ooh, that's one I really like. You know, as an entrepreneur, I'm all about jobs, created a lot of jobs. And I
put it up on the screen here for you, Mark. So there's your policy card.
Okay. So let's just go through this quickly, Chris, in terms of the points. I'll read them out, and then we'll talk about the details. Point number 1 is demand level playing fields in trade. Point number 2, bring manufacturing back to Ohio and the United States. Point number 3, let skills and markets determine wages, not politicians. And point number 4, quit incentivizing education that does not produce skills and demand. There's a whole lot to unpack in those 4 lines. Let's start with let skills and market determine wages, not politicians. We seem to believe that government should be doing workforce development and things like that. I tend to believe that we need to let the free market and capitalism settle on things like wages and education and skills that are required. What do you think, Chris?
I can't agree with you more. And I just saw something, I think last week, Mark, about how real income is actually declining in the Biden administration because although you have all these places now paying the beloved $15 an hour or more that liberals fought for, the money's not worth as much. So they are losing ground in those jobs.
That's unfortunate. Demanding level playing fields in trade. That's one that most people will probably say, shouldn't that be under trade? But really what it is it allows us to keep jobs here because we put ourselves with bad trade deals at a disadvantage versus those people that we outsource or offshore work to, like China, like India, and others. They don't face the same kind of environmental regulations or the same kind of safety and civil worker regulations. So I think that we've decided as a campaign that that's extremely important.
All right, let's go on to roulette number 2. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
So let me pop this away for a second here. Pick them up. Reach in here. Let's see what number I got. Number, and I know you can't see this because I got a number over the there you go. Number 19. Number 19.
Let's see. That's on the other side of the card. That is, entitlements. I like this one. Entitlements number 19. Chris will be bringing up on the screen. Point number 1. I love this terminology because I came up with it. Take a flamethrower to an entitlement culture in DC and in too many Americans. Point number 2. See Medicare and Social Security as failing programs to be fixed, not models for expanding entitlement. Point number 3, offer hands-up programs that are measured on creating independence. And point number 4, help others, but quit making poverty too comfortable for too many. Now, that last one is interesting because all the way back to Ben Franklin, Chris, Ben Franklin was saying that we should make poverty somewhat uncomfortable to people to help them get out of it, incent them to get out of it. But most importantly, I think we need to take a flamethrower to this entitlement culture in DC. And it's not only in DC, it's everywhere. As an entrepreneur, I created jobs. So I like to look at it as an entrepreneur. The first thing they do is create a job for themselves to make themselves less dependent on the government. And then as they grow their business, they create jobs for other people that give those people purpose and get them less dependent on the government. So I think we need a rebirth of small business entrepreneurship and what I'd call, rugged American individualism in terms of really taking the bull by the horns and leading one's own life.
I don't know how, Mark. I don't want to go off the page here, but people just saw what happened to small businesses during COVID, and so we need what you said, that entrepreneur spirit in those small businesses. But I could see where a lot of people are afraid to start small businesses now because the government can crush them in a wink of in the pen of a bureaucrat,
right,
can crush your small business. So that's very unfortunate. It's also very unfortunate. You and I have talked a lot about how, wouldn't it be unbelievable to have programs that were actually measured on how many people got out of poverty or how many people became independent, not programs that we measure based on, we need more people on food stamps. We need more this, we need more that.
Well, wouldn't it be great to have every piece of legislation have some kind of measurement clause in it to determine whether or not it was being successful, whether it was having to do with entitlements or not, right?
Right. You and I've talked about it as the idea of having a project mentality of things. The project is to get people not needing entitlements, to get people free of government and move forward.
Yep.
So, okay, now let's go policy area number 3. I'm going to shake it up a little bit here. I'm not looking. Is there one you'd really like to talk about? What would be your favorite one that you want to talk about?
Oh, boy, there's so many of them. I love them all.
So let's see which one.
I really do love them all.
We got let's see if you can see it, if it gets focused in there enough. It's number 15. Number 15.
Oh, yeah. Number 15 is diplomacy and international. This is a good one. Bring that one up there. I'll start. Point number 1, stand up to China and stand with Hong Kong, Taiwan, and others for liberty and freedom. Number 2, hit the reset button on our commitment to, drumroll please, the UN. Point number 3, de-escalate hostility with Russia and work with them in areas like anti-terrorism. And point number 4, work better with India and friendly countries in the Middle East. It really does seem to me, Chris, that we've got our priorities quite backwards these days. We've spent so much time talking about Russia. Russia, I think, they're the 4th biggest spender on defense, behind India and China even. I don't know why we worry about them so much, and they have helped us in the past with terrorism. China is our biggest threat, and we need to be redeploying and retooling our military to deal with that threat, support democratic nations in that geography. And then I think also, we won't talk about this here, but we also need some retooling of our defense forces as well. And as you know, I just think the UN is a total waste right now. It like the entitlements needs to have a flamethrower taken to it, and we need UN 2.0 or something to replace it. You and I have discussed, I've discussed with you, a NATO-like alliance for the, Asia Pacific area where China has so much influence. I think that we can come up with a lot of different solutions that are better than the way we've got our security forces deployed and equipped today.
I was taken aback, as maybe going off the page a little bit on this one. I was taken aback a little bit in one of the recent candidate forums that you put forward the view that the Border Patrol should deal with the border, not the military, and face some heavy critique for that. Do you want to expand on your view that the Border Patrol and not the military is who should deal with our issues at the border?
Sure. So China is our biggest threat, yet we've got military deployed everywhere else in the world in high numbers. Now, we do have military in Japan, South Korea, elsewhere, but I believe that the threat coming from China is bigger than any other threat, with the possible exception of maybe Iran. But we need to take a more modern approach to this. Now, in terms of the border, listen, President Trump had border crossings down with the Border Patrol, no military there, down to 16,000 a month at one point. We're now at 200,000 a month and counting, and nothing has changed except the guy in the seat in the Oval Office, or the husk of a human being sitting in that seat in the Oval Office.
All right. Well, I think one of the things we've talked about is the key thing is we need to worry about our military lethality. And with China, you mentioned them being the biggest threat. I think they're by far the biggest threat. And we just all heard, if we pay attention to the news, they're testing of hypersonic missiles that could make our significant defense investments like aircraft carriers worthless in a heartbeat. So I don't know that we need to have our troops worrying about helping Hondurans at the border when they need to worry about how to shoot down hypersonic missiles of the Chinese.
Right.
Is a priority. Okay. So those were our three that we're going to do tonight of the policy roulette. So we're up to 5 that we've done. We have 21 total. So we've got 16 more to go, and hopefully people enjoy it. And do you have any thoughts on, of your opponents? You talk a lot more about this stuff and try to dig in, and there's a lot of areas, but do you have any comment on, your opponents and who do you think is your closest competitor on policy from your Senate opponents?
I think that it's probably Bernie Moreno, Chris. Bernie seems to have at least a passing handle on the policy issues, but it's kind of interesting to me that we're not getting into more policy issues, with questions in forums, just like, hey, what would your defense policy be?
Right.
But I think it would be Bernie. It would be Bernie.
All right. Well, we're going to move on to segment 2. Which is going to be on. Go ahead, Mark.
Oh, I was going to say, we had another great Senate forum last Thursday in Strongsville, where, as I said before, the characters and the facades were out in force. And we've got some video in this next segment that we're calling Candidates.
All right. So let's go on to segment 2. Okay, so in segment 2, we're gonna talk about 3 things I think that happened during the policy forum, the last forum, and first one is Mandel and the money that did not go to Renacci, which is one of the topics that came up, and then Bernie hating on Trump in 2019, or was he joking in 2019 when he was hating on Trump, and then Jane Timken looking really strong in the forum, and we're going to highlight some of that as well.
Yep.
So let's start with, I'm going to play some video of, the first thing I'm going to play is the video relating to Josh Mandel and the money that he raised in his 2018 Senate campaign, and what happened to that money when Jim Renacci was hip deep in fighting Sherrod Brown to try to take a Senate seat for Ohio and for the Republican Party.
Mr. Mandel, your critics have complained and GOP donors have inquired about money you retained after dropping out of the 2018 Senate race against now Senator Sherrod Brown. You are utilizing these funds now. Why did you retain that money, and can you explain this decision on your part?
Well, respectfully, the premise of the question is not true. I refunded over $1 million to hundreds of donors. In fact, The first donor who called me were Jane and Tim Timken, and I sent them back their 10 grand right away.
And Josh, you know what? I know you kept a lot of that money because as chair of the party, I went to you and said, we need to win this Senate race. And if we had won the Senate race in 2018, Republicans would be in charge of the Senate and would be a check on the Democrat socialist agenda. And when I went to you, Josh, and I said, Josh, I know you had to drop out, but you need to help the rest of us and help the candidates. You know what Josh said to me? Didn't hesitate. No.
Mark, there you have Jane Timken reaction. You were there. So.
Yeah, that was a strong answer. And she was there. She was a witness to that. I mean, she was a primary witness. Chris, we've both had people involved in the 2018 election tell us that Josh is not being honest about this topic, haven't we?
Yes. I personally know somebody that's in the donor class that went to Josh Mandel, had given money, asked for that money to be moved to Renace's campaign for Senate, and Josh Mandel's people told him no.
Yeah, and I heard it from a candidate. You can figure out who that is. But after dropping out, wouldn't it be reasonable? Isn't it expected that someone who drops out like Mandel would transfer those donations to the candidate that replaces him, especially since they came in late and you know, lost the momentum, the head start that they would have had if they've gotten in earlier? And
absolutely.
Yeah, and I think the reality is it's not much of a leap of logic to say that Josh didn't do that, because he's a career politician. As he quit, I would say he was already planning his next candidacy, next campaign. So he needed that war chest, and I think Jane, you know, brought it to everybody's attention pretty firmly.
Right. Well, let's move on to the second clip, which is around Bernie Moreno hating on Trump in 2019. Or was he really just joking? Here we go.
In terms of the interview, what happened with President Trump, from the moment he became president of the United States, I massively supported him. My daughter did an amazing job working on his campaign. That interview in 2019, please Google it tonight, because what you'll find is the question was a humorous conversation that if any of you have multiple children, you understand what I'm saying.
Steve online is asking about your support of the Trump campaign, President Trump.
No, my daughter works on Trump 2020, and she's free to do that. We have a vigorous debate at home about politics, and my daughter works on the Trump campaign. That doesn't mean that I support the Trump campaign. Okay. Different story. You can interview my daughter if you like.
And Bernie, you weren't on the Trump train until you jumped into this race, so let's be honest.
Boom.
All right, Mark.
Boom. Let's face it, Bernie didn't support Trump in 2016, but Bernie obviously wasn't supporting Trump in 2019. But now he wants us to believe he supported Trump in 2020 and does now. It seems to me, Chris, that he had a conversion to Trump supporter just in time to announce he was running for office.
I think so. If you look at some of his past quotes and sayings, they seem to support that.
Maniac, lunatic, yeah.
Yeah, and in 2019, that interview, which I think you were the one that found it, we put it out there, and it's nice to see somebody responding. When I pulled that interview from the TV station site that it was on, at the time, it only had something on the order of under 1,000 views. And that was, again, from 2019. And I guess Bernie wants us to believe he was joking, or that was some joke in interview. But the joke is on us, because it was clear that he was had his guard down. And that's the thing that, by the way, that's the thing that I love about Donald Trump so much, is there's no two Donald Trumps. There's not a back room Donald Trump and a front room Donald Trump. I think there's a back room Bernie Moreno and a front room Bernie Moreno.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
So that's the second part. And then now we've had two of them. What do you think about Jane Timken? She's looking pretty strong in this forum.
I'll tell you what. I mean, let's play some more video and let her execute on her strength.
All right, here we go. Here's the third part of this, which is Jane looking pretty strong, or really?
I am proud of my job as chair of the Ohio Republican Party that delivered Ohio for President Trump by more than 8.5 points. There's no one else on this stage that has worked harder for Republicans in Ohio and for President Trump than me.
Now, I made this little collage, Mark, for us to enjoy. These are some of my friends. It's just some stuff going on around my house. We're out on boat parades. We're honking and waving. We're going around the highway in car parades. And, you know, I don't know. It's what's your reaction to Jane there?
Well, with Jane, she's hitched her wagon to Trump. I mean, it's Trump. With Jane, it's Trump, 24/7 all the time. But I have two questions. One, if she was so valuable to President Donald Trump, why hasn't he hired her to be part of his campaign? Right? And the second is, if she was so valuable to President Donald Trump, why hasn't he endorsed her yet? Like, I would love answers to those questions.
Well, I'm going to throw up here, Mark. This is because we're going to have a segment. I'm going to throw up something in a second on some of Jane's team and the team that we see out on the campaign trail. Yeah. But I just want to personally say that having been a unbelievable grassroots supporter of Trump myself and out there every weekend, honking, waving, going door to door, doing all that kind of stuff. I don't know a lot of the people that did the stuff that I did think that Jane Timken did that, and talk about a lack of humility. Timken and Paduchek and Rob Sikor, they walk around and they tell people over and over again they were the ones who got Trump 8 points. And I think, first off, that's baloney. Second off, it's insulting to the people that actually did the legwork. And the people that I saw that were paid for by the ORP to do any legwork for Trump typically did a horrible job. It was the unpaid grassroots people.
Right. It was grassroots voters who were tired of hiring the same kind of people, voting for the same kind of people, and getting the same result.
So I'm going to put up a picture here of Jane Timken has a lot of supporters that are young people that are out, and they all wear these T-shirts around. And the T-shirts, I believe is she the only candidate that has Trump on her actual T-shirts for her?
Yeah, she must have cut a co-branding deal with Donald Trump. I mean, I really wonder if he knows about this, because he doesn't like this kind of stuff, right? He's kind of like, you do you, I'll do me. And I do wonder if he knows she's drafting off of him.
Well, we so this thing, we have a name we've started to call these people, Mark. What do we call them? Lovingly.
The Timbots.
The Timbots.
Not the Timbits, the Timbots.
The Timbots that go around with Jane Timken. And we have a little video of the Timbots that I personally shot. Okay, so let's enjoy.
Oh, dear Lord.
Let's go, Brandon! 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 I guess Jane Timken's people aren't very much let's go, Brandon people.
So they go around to events and they chant Jane, 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 Jane. It has no melody or harmony to it, and it's super irritating to me.
Very irritating.
So any event, that's those pieces. Tell us about our third segment, Mark.
So the third segment is about Winterset CPAs, and this is they're part of the corrupt culture. And I think folks that are watching today and will watch this over time are going to be really surprised about how tight-knit this community of corruption is, Chris, and Winterset is in the middle of it. You've got some great video. And one of the reasons that I like working with you, Chris, is that we both have we despise corruption. We despise dishonesty. And you've made it a hobby to go after corruption in campaigns and campaign finance, fraud, and things of that nature. In fact, you're involved in a couple things right now. Didn't you just have a case before the Ohio Election Commission that has now everybody's rested, and you're waiting for a decision. Maybe you can explain to people, just how involved you've been.
Well, there's a case going on, Mark, and I'm going to throw up here because we're going to focus on Winterset CPAs here in the discussion. So Winterset CPA Group is a Columbus accounting firm, and it does the campaign finance reporting for a lot of the big name candidates and organizations in Ohio. And down here where I live in Southwest Ohio, we have a candidate that was one of the householder candidates that had $290,000 spent on their campaign with their own disclaimer on it, but claims the dog ate my invoice. I didn't know what was going on, and never declared any of it. And Winterset CPAs was the CPA firm involved with that candidate and serving as their treasurer. This woman's name is Susan Jones. She's one of two key people within this firm that do campaign finance reporting. And on the right side of this is this candidate named Alan Freeman, his invoice from Jeff Longstreth for $290,744.63. And so what happened was when she got this, so what do you think, Mark, you're a business guy. Let's say that in your business, you'd been working with somebody, which he had. He knew he had worked on commercials and so on and so forth. And you get an invoice for somebody in your organization gets an invoice for $290,000 from a vendor. What do you think? What would you want that person to do?
Well, in my business, if our payables person got an invoice, the first thing they do is make sure they'd go to the person who was responsible for the expenditure and make sure that the invoice was valid, right down to every line item. And then we'd put it in line to be paid.
So let's listen to what happened. So in the Ohio Election Commission hearing where this came up, this woman, Susan Jones, inexplicably claims she never looked at the invoice. She never opened up the detail that was provided with the invoice. And she just kind of ignored it. She just kind of ignored this massive invoice. And she never talked with the candidate about it. She never talked with the candidate that was involved about it. She just, I guess, sat there and didn't look at it, like looked away from the screen. But let's watch some video of Susan Jones testifying before from Winterset CPAs before the Ohio Election Commission on what she did when she got a $290,000 invoice. And it's not me asking the questions. This is one of the board members of the Ohio Election Commission, one of the commissioners, asking her questions after we had covered this, because I think he was just so stunned by the narrative of the whole thing. Here we go.
This is stunning.
So you've got an invoice which you classify, especially in a House race, that is shocking, unbelievable, and yet you never have a conversation with the actual candidate that you're the treasurer for. Is that true?
Not that I recall. So.
Well, I would think if you're talking about something that's as shocking, unbelievable as this, that at some point in time you'd have a conversation going, this is ridiculous, we need to figure this out, something along those lines, correct?
I understand what you're saying.
But that never took place.
Not that I recall.
Did you ever reach out to Anna to say, hey, should this be an in-kind contribution? Can we get something so we can properly report this?
I don't recall doing that now.
I don't think I've got any further questions.
So when people are wondering about why there's $61 million bribery scandals with Larry Householder, we don't know what happened to ex-Speaker Cliff Rosenberger, et cetera. This is a pretty good example of it, this kind of idiotic narrative that this woman had.
I mean, you could see that the gentleman who was asking questions from the board, he literally sat there and put his head down and thought about it for a while. I think he was absolutely stunned. And Chris, these people see this stuff every month, right? Probably every day.
Well, I think they enable it, actually. So it's taken more than a year to get to that point of actually having a full hearing. I'm under the understanding that the hearing that I've been involved with might be the first full hearing of any consequence since, and people other than not in my area wouldn't know about Aftab Puravel, which was a guy running for Senate, but that is very hard to get to this point. And the system really kind of wears you down, and you want to give up on, and you wonder why nothing happens with campaign finance in people worry about campaign finance amounts of contributions. I'm telling you, that's not the issue. The issue is any respect for campaign finance laws. So just, I'm going to throw up here. This is this woman, Susan Jones, is the deputy treasurer for Robert Sprague, one of our state treasurer. This is the guy that he entrusts this woman to be his deputy treasurer, the woman that doesn't look at invoices, doesn't just ignores things. And I guess that works pretty good if you don't want to have accurate and clean campaign finance report. But it gets better, Mark. She is the deputy treasurer for our attorney general, Dave Yost. Dave Yost, which is where the hell is Dave Yost when any of these corrupt things happen? He's always got some press conference after the feds do something that they didn't tell him they were going to do because he would have probably leaked it to the guilty parties so they could have fled the state. So she is the deputy treasurer for Dave Yost. And she is also the deputy treasurer for Senate President Matt Huffman. So this is the way that this works, and these are the only ones that I have so far.
And Chris, I noticed that the treasurer for all three of them is the same person, Matt Yuskowicz from Winterset as well.
Right. So Winterset she just explained during the hearing that we had that Winterset has two people that do campaign finance reporting, and they alternate being treasurer and deputy treasurer.
Gotcha.
Based on those records that have pulled. By the way, when I asked for those treasurer designation of treasurer forms from Secretary of State LaRose office, it took something on the order of 3 to 4 weeks to get them. If I would request such a thing from my local board of elections on a candidate, I would get it the same day. It's all a codependent. What's a codependent
cesspool of corruption.
It's a codependent cesspool of corruption where they all enable each other. They go through the motions and they try to trick us at times as to what's really going on. So that was our third segment about Winterset CPAs. There's more stuff going to come out with that. There's more things going to get filed by me, at least in relation to some of this crooked campaign finance that has gone on in Ohio.
Thanks for doing that, Chris. Thanks.
So with that, we are going to move on to the segment that we call Freeform, which is an opportunity for you, Mark, to talk about whatever the H you want to talk about.
Right.
And let's go on to that segment.
That's standard.
I'm going to give you the floor.
Thank you. So I just wanted to comment a little bit about Kyle Rittenhouse's exoneration. And there are a couple things that struck me. I've had some conversations with a number of people, including Chris. The first is that this should never have happened. If law enforcement had been allowed to do their job, none of this would have happened. People wouldn't have been murdered. People wouldn't have been shot. And this poor kid wouldn't have gone through the trauma that he did if law enforcement was allowed to do their job. And I do not, this is not hyperbole. You know, we've seen this in Columbus, right down the way from me here from Dublin. The summer of 2020, Mike DeWine and Andrew Ginther called off the Columbus police and the state police and allowed Black Lives Matter and Antifa to vandalize, burn, loot, deface public property. And it's all because we won't let law enforcement do their job. Now, we also talked about Kyle Rittenhouse being a hero, and I don't think that we can look at Kyle Rittenhouse as a hero. Maybe a martyr, but a hero. As I talked to Chris, we've got kids and all the rest, that our kid would be running into a confrontation like that. We'd be angry with them. I think most parents would. So, you know, where were the parents in that situation? It's not for a 17-year-old kid to be doing what law enforcement should be doing. He's lucky that he didn't get killed in that confrontation because that Gage guy had a loaded weapon pointing right at his head. So that's kind of my freeform commentary. Chris, do we just want to roll into the talking about the Christmas party and the campaign update, or do we have a nifty little video?
Let's go to campaign update right after this.
So
I still get tingly every time I hear that.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to make sure you got to play that. So coming up, this is a light week for us because of Thanksgiving. We've got an event in Mansfield tomorrow night. You can go to our website, mark4ohio.com, mark4ohio.com, go to the events tab. You can find it. We also have a Zoom brown bag lunch on Wednesday at noon. But the real schedule kicks back up again next week. On Monday in Westchester Township, we've got another Senate forum like the one we had video from tonight. That, once again, is hosted by Jack Windsor and the Ohio Press Network. And hopefully that'll be a barn burner, and we'll talk a lot of policy. Hint, hint. We've got a meet and greet up at the Medina County GOP headquarters on the 1st, and some other activities that day. And then on the 2nd, we'll be in Sheffield Lake. The real big events for next week are the Ohio Republican Party Christmas party and State Central Committee meeting on Friday. So the Christmas party is on Thursday night, and the event, the State Central Committee meeting event, is on Friday starting at 10. The Christmas party is the night before on Thursday, and we've bought a block of tickets. If you'd like to go with us, you can be our guest. We have a limited number of tickets. You can send an email to info, that's INFO, at mark4ohio.com. Info at mark4ohio.com, and let us know if you'd like to go. The tickets are going fast, and we have a limited amount, so please don't be disappointed if we can't accommodate you. The next day, the State Central Committee meeting, we want to have as many people there as possible to show the interest of the grassroots in Ohio Republican politics. And we've got some neat things organized for that, a room where we can meet and things of that nature. We want to be polite. We want to be engaged. We want to be respectful, but we want to let the Ohio Republican Party and the State Central Committee know that we're watching them. Now, that afternoon, we're going to have a volunteer training session right after the meeting in our room there at the Nationwide Convention Center, where the meeting and the Christmas party are being held. Those are both in Lewis Center, Ohio, just north of Columbus on Route 23. So it's very easy to get to, and there's lots of parking, and you could even stay overnight if you'd like. We're going to be having an after party. The Christmas party, when I have Christmas parties, I have people that show up fashionably late at 9 o'clock. The ORP's Christmas party ends at 9 o'clock. So we'll be having an after party nearby where we can go and have a little more fun and in a less stuffy, more casual environment. And then we've got a regional volunteer coordinator training for a good portion of the day on Saturday. So if you'd like to volunteer with us, you've got an opportunity to get some training. We're all about training and process and structure. Nobody on our volunteer team says we're disorganized. In fact, we're extremely organized, and I've got a great team. My volunteer coordinators, Bob Nicholson and Robert Gray, who's up in the Akron-Canton area. They do a great job, in addition to all the rest of our team. I couldn't be doing this without them. I love them to death, and hopefully they love me to death, because I really do care about them.
Well, Mark, I can say, being part of the team, that we also have fun, and I want to know when on the Truth Bomb we're going to have the reading of jokes, because we have crib jokes about every candidate. Some of them are funny. Some of them are really funny.
Some of them are extremely edgy.
all of your competitors. So we have a lot of fun on the team. We are definitely not Tim bots or Mark bots.
We are clearly not that.
One of the things I think I probably said to people before is you and I both had experience working at IBM and a certain type of culture there. And one of the things I really respect about you is you're always taking input. You're always listening. You're always really wanting to hear people. Somebody pointed out to me at not this just past forum, but the one before it, that while the other candidates were all huddled in the front of the church where the forum was, you were the only candidate actually going around talking to individual people that were sitting in the pews.
Right.
Because you're a regular, approachable, intelligent guy that I think if people want to get on this team, you actually have an input on what's going on. I doubt that the Tim bots get much input on Jane Timken's policy statements.
Yeah, and many people don't think about it, but senators have a fairly large staff, and who you surround yourself with, and the quality of their experience and their character is very, very important, because the senator has to be dealing with, juggling a lot of issues at the same time, and they literally, it would be impossible for them to do it themselves.
Well, one last thing I'm going to say, Mark, and then we'll get out of here, is we've been joking around a little bit, is the next forum. So we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do with the Truth Bomb when the forum's going on.
Yeah.
On Truth Bomb Day. But we're working up. We're going to have a Josh Mandel drinking game, so that during the forum, every time Josh says his Joshisms, there's like 5. If you pay attention to Mark's page, you'll know there's like 5 Joshisms that Josh says over and over. And we're going to maybe have a live stream drinking game when Josh uses one of his.
Let me try one though, Chris. Over my dead body.
So my favorite is I'm the only person on the stage endorsed by a group of nuns from Central Ohio or something like this. Right. I'm the only person on the stage endorsed by this. That was, to me, your best line of the whole thing so far. Was what did you say when Josh was on like the 10th person that he said, I'm the only person endorsed by a blah. I'm the only person endorsed by this. What did you say? You remember?
My 89-year-old mom endorses me.
I thought she's 90 now.
She's 90 now, but she was 89.
All right.
90 now.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us here on the Truth Bomb. And we will see you next week.
And just one thing, Chris. Thanksgiving is Thursday. We all know that. That's my favorite holiday. It's my mom's favorite holiday. In fact, she and I are having Thanksgiving dinner together at 1:00 on Thursday. And we love the holiday because, as we were talking before, Chris, it's about getting together with family. But more importantly, that's the only reason for it, to come together with family and give thanks. It isn't about gift giving. There's very little commercialism about it until the clock hits midnight and we end up in Black Friday. and it's kind of like sending off, this really great day where you're thankful for what you've got and what the resources that God has blessed us with, and being a part of this great country. And then you roll into what's become commercialized. That shouldn't be, the birth of Jesus Christ and all that. But I really want to wish everybody a blessed, family together, safe, loving Thanksgiving. If you're traveling, please be safe, and make sure that you can catch us on the next Truth Bomb, because we'd love to have you watch us.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Good night.